Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and I would like first of all to acknowledge my colleagues of the panel and all protocols having been established, I duly observe. I think in the program you have a good short snippet of who Michael Scott really is. I do acknowledge my colleague from the 42nd batch sitting here, my teacher is here as well, and some colleagues from 41st batch. This evening I am asked to open the batting, and so I'm going to open the batting because there are some very prolific scorers following me. I want to focus on the changing education landscape to effect freedom. And as I thought about it, I realized that there was a time we spoke about free education, and there's a little quote I always kept with me. Free education is not freedom, and it is by no means free. We are here because of and for education, whether formal, informal, or non-formal, whether nursery, through primary to university, or vocational, whether engaging the various levels of the abled and or differently abled, whether it is secular or spiritual, whether for the advancement of both soft and hard skills, whether online or offline, in virtual or real classrooms. There is a changing education landscape. Yes. Education is indeed lifelong, having a start with life and has no end. And it's indeed life itself, and not just preparation for life. For we are the products of education, and what we say and do is a reflection on our education. Being one of the primary socializing agents, and if only for that reason, there will always be an inextricable link of mutual impact between education and socioeconomic development. Indeed, every day we consume and digest new knowledge, it is focused on socioeconomic development, which is about people and their capacity to respond to and within their socioeconomic realities. I'd like to advert to one of the feminist thinkers from the Third World, Sister Wazir Karim from Indonesia, Commonwealth scholar, who made the point that purposeful new knowledge, and I'm paraphrasing, is power. And such power is only powerful when it empowers others. It gives others that capability, in other words, to obtain new knowledge. Education is that knowledge-based capability to enhance people's life choices and chances with freedom. The power to choose, the absence of which is bondage, captivity, and dependence on the thinking of others. There are two of my favorite philosophers whom I will engage in addressing the issue of education as freedom. And one is right nearby from Brazil, Paolo Freire, of our neighboring Brazil, who focus on education as freedom from the vantage point of mental liberation through self-consciousness, in order to counter the impact of dependency, the dependency syndrome in satellite or peripheral societies, where a dependent education system based on dependent socioeconomic realities was founded on an asymmetrical relationship between powerful, dominant, and developed centers and weak, dependent peripheries. And this drove and sustained the process of knowledge gain and knowledge drain, as we see, or what we call brain drain in this time. There's also Immanuel Kant, who, in paraphrase, poignantly stated in his treatise titled Yober Pédagogique, or translated On Pedagogy, that the learner must learn to rule him or herself and come to terms with the twin necessities of liberty and constraint, the product of which is freedom. Adding that the learner, and I quote, should be educated not with reference to the present conditions of things, but rather with regard to possibly improved state of the human race. That is according to the ideal of humanity and its entire destiny. Guyana's education reform has had, like other reform experiences globally, an alignment with its philosophy or ideology underpinning socioeconomic development. It evolved from a socioeconomic philosophy of regressive servitude through dependency, egalitarianism, where we spoke of free and compulsory education, state control, co-education. Then there's an era of counter-reformism with the consolidation of elite school systems. And then the globalization with its quadrifocal free flows of technology, information as knowledge, investment, innovation, as well as of diverse individuals. The inevitable movement of invaluable goods and services and technology itself did attach its primary impact on the education system. Guyana now on the cusp of what I call an oil and gas population and knowledge explosion, which will impact its socioeconomic development, realizes the need to invest in people and, of course, education, in modernization and in developing critical infrastructure to support such a system, and so build a feel-good factor. The changing landscape emphasizes the philosophy of freedom, which demands an education system underpinned by freedom and not a bondage of fear of examinations, of a fear of failure, and a distrust of the learning process, and the drive to homeschooling, the flipped classroom, and the teacherless classroom, as well as the capacity to access education unhindered by socioeconomic realities. Consider the scenario of a couple, Narish and his wife from Essequibo Coast, and Elnora of Mabaruma, who desire to improve their capabilities and found themselves unable to do so because they cannot access education. There is a restriction on their freedom. The change in the education landscape to effect freedom Do I have an extra minute? I have just a few points to make. The changing education landscape, therefore, to effect freedom, must cause us to revisit the ultra-examification of the education system at the expense of learning by doing, to enhance perceptions and understanding of our socioeconomic reality and its development. It must also encourage self-evaluation, peer evaluation, and continuous assessment of our pedagogy or andragogy and the materials, environment, and teacher-learner relationships as the process of learning is facilitated rather than dictated. It must encourage freedom to think and freedom to say within the limits that freedom allows, as well as freedom to do. And finally, the education we desire in a free and open market must be quality assured and enhanced as it responds to the philosophy of safety, discipline, and managed expectations in a socially cohesive society, with a loyalty to the green policy, which we'll hear about. Finally, remember, education cannot be divorced from what we teach, the competencies we ought to ensure the society has, our context, how current we are, and most of all, the character we intend to form, those soft skills that we often speak about. Thank you very much, and may God bless you.